Hi, we're the third year broadcasting students from Edith Cowan University, Australia's only undergraduate broadcasting course.
We are the future television and radio presenters, producers and reporters, and we've created 2 Project WA shows highlighting those who are making a difference.
It's no secret that WA has one of the most beautiful coastlines in the world, but the ocean can be a dangerous place.
Being in an environment like the ocean, it's a very unpredictable environment. You don't know what's going to happen from one minute to the next.
15 years ago, Nick Jenkins was surfing at Secret Harbour when a young boy was swept out to the ocean on his bodyboard.
Without hesitation, Nick paddled out to save him.
After about 45 minutes of paddling, that was the first time I actually looked around and I realised how far I'd actually gone out.
He paddled for 3 kilometres before finding the boy.
I got to him and he was just holding on to the back. He'd been in the water about 2.5 hours. When I met with his dad and I could see his appreciation in his eyes, I knew that I'd been able to do something pretty special.
Surf Lifesaving WA do an amazing job, saving countless amounts of lives every year.
The surf lifesavers who are on patrol every summer perform somewhere around 1,200 rescues a year, and that's the ones that we know about that our lifesavers are performing and get recorded.
But due to the vastness of the West Australian coast, 99% of it is unpatrolled. Often when emergency situations arise, surfers are the first one on the scene. Surfing WA has teamed up with Surf Lifesaving WA to create a program that teaches surfers first aid and board rescue skills for emergency situations.
By giving the skills and confidence to our surfers, which are our community members that are always utilising the ocean, we make the beach a safer place to use for all West Australians and tourists alike.
The Surf Rescue 365 program equips surfers with the skills needed to save a life.
To be honest, one drowning a year is one drowning too many, so we want to do our bit to minimise it where possible, and we believe that providing a free short course for surfers and recreational surfers to access is really going to go a long way to doing so.
In 2016, surfer Ben GERRING was attacked by a shark off a beach in Falcon. Nick Jenkins was one of the heroic surfers who performed CPR on him until emergency services arrived.
I knew this was the time I needed to step up.
Sadly, Ben did not survive his injuries, but the chance those surfers gave him meant the world to his family.
Just that chance to say goodbye, I can't be more thankful to the guys for doing that and, you know, giving Ben the best chance that he could have at survival. That's all anyone could ask for.
Since Ben's death, his brother Rick has become an advocate for shark mitigation, importing a leg rope with an inbuilt ratchet that can be used as a tourniquet.
Applying a tourniquet in that first 90 seconds is imperative to giving someone the best chance of survival and stopping the blood loss.
These measures are just stepping stones to making WA beaches a safer place.
The war on waste has been so focused on plastic shopping bags that the state government will ban them by mid-2018. Now the focus is on takeaway coffee cups. A Perth company is doing their part to reduce the environmental impact of these cups with their paper cup project.
A lot of coffee cup manufacturers will say they're recyclable or they're biodegradable. The difference is our cups are actually made out of cornstarch, so they are 100% compostable and biodegradable.
In WA, we love a good takeaway coffee, so much so that tens of millions of them are sold here each year. They're quick, convenient, and when we're done, we just throw them in the nearest bin. But 90% of these cups are ending up in landfill, and that's a big problem.
This is because most cups are coated with plastic that doesn't break down over time, so it ends up buried in landfill forever. Protecting the environment is now a big part of the project, but it began with the idea of bringing artists and coffee lovers together.
As a creative, I'm a graphic designer, I know the struggle of getting that exposure, and I saw that the humble paper cup has this 20 minutes of exposure, which is quite untapped.
A big thing is that a lot of corporate organisations or businesses in general can't engage with millennials. But what do millennials do? Everything we do, we record absolutely everything. So we thought, why don't we create something that actually entices them to take a photo of the cup as well.
The project began in September 2016 with the Octopus Cup issue.
We like to say we took a gamble. We ordered 50,000 cups, had no cafe customers whatsoever.
Once we started having just a Photoshop mock-up of the cups, cafes were just rolling in because they loved it. It was something different, it was something new, and literally it just grew from there. We were printing 50,000, and now we're about to print like 250,000.
The project releases a new cup issue every few months. By the end of the year, they'll reach 1 million cups sold. Their next issue will feature artist Mason Roberts.
We kind of did 2 cups actually. So we did one for the Movember, so they can put up against their face and it would be like this fun Instagrammable, like shareable thing. The second one was like, he just used one of my works from like the Seinfeld series that I did, and then he did like one of the Kramer.
Compostable cups are more expensive to manufacture than standard ones, but the Paper Cup project pays the difference, so it's no wonder that 60 Perth cafes are now on board.
For us it was a no-brainer, local project, sustainable, environmental, and with really super cool art from locals. People love the cups, and it does create the question, who's the artist? It's always the first thing.
The project also choose a new Perth-based charity to donate to with every new cup issue.
The last cup we just did with Depeche, every time someone took a photo of their cup and hashtag Paper Cup Project, we would donate $1 to Fiona Wood Foundation. And that's something we want to implement going forward for every cup.
The next cup issue will hit cafes in January.
Hi, I'm Mark McGowan, Premier of Western Australia. I'm doing my best to make a difference by diversifying our state's economy, by building Metronet to create better planning and transport opportunities for our citizens, and by ensuring that those West Australians who do it tough get the most support they can from their state government. I'd encourage everyone to make a difference, whether it's recycling or whether it's reading to your children or whether it's participating in your local community group. Everyone in Western Australia is important. Everyone in Western Australia has a role to play.
It's no secret that WA is becoming a drier state, with rainfall gradually decreasing each year.
The situation is that our environmental water is drying up. We're getting less rain, which means that our dams and our aquifers are declining, and we're using those resources too much. So we absolutely need to supplement environmental water resources somehow.
Due to greenhouse gases emitted by human activities, it's estimated that by 2070, WA will experience 80% more drought months. But what if there was a way to decrease emissions and create clean water at the same time? Well, PhD students at ECU School of Engineering have done just that. They've created a machine that can recycle waste heat from energy-intensive industries to create power and clean water.
This system can, use the waste heat from energy-intensive industries. And by using that source of energy, we can co-generate power and pure water at the same time.
Traditionally, dams have catered for Perth's water needs and were mostly made up by inflows of rain.
During Perth's colder months, you would expect that with the increase of rainfall, that it would make a difference on the level of the dams. However, this is not the case. Today, after a week of rainfall, this dam is only holding 45.4% of its capacity.
Due to decreasing rainfall, the dams now receive water from different sources such as groundwater and desalinated water. Desalination is the process of removing salt and other impurities from water. Almost half of Perth's water needs are now provided through this system.
We make fresh water by putting energy into something like salt water so that we can extract all of the salt out of it, and then we're left with fresh water. But that's a very energy intensive process.
This machine uses a desalination system to produce clean water, but because it's powered by recycled emissions, it's much cheaper and energy efficient than traditional systems.
The good point is it doesn't use any fossil fuel or extra fossil fuel for as an energy source. It just only uses the waste recovery.
As you can see, these emissions are being released into the environment when they could be recycled and used to create power and clean drinking water.
This technology is so versatile that it can be used in a range of industrial industries and on ships, where it can use their emissions to create power on board and turn seawater into fresh water. With global warming and water security becoming increasingly concerning issues, it's innovative technology like this which is truly making a difference.
we're from Presbyterian Ladies College. And this is Tech Tips for Seniors.
PLC girls come into the Grove Library and the elderly come in and we just help them with like technology, like questions they have.
So it could be anything from simple things like how to navigate their phone, maybe if they are having a small tech problem like working out, how to upload something, like get an app.
Tech Tips is part of the service learning program at PLC where we're encouraged to do community service.
I thought it would be really cool to just help the elderly understand technology because it's something our generation's really good at.
The PLC girls are great. I'm very non-tech savvy with computers. I find them difficult. What amazes me is that it's all second nature to them. They know it. They don't have to think about it.
The feeling of giving and like understanding other people's situations and helping people and like when people thank you, it just feels so good.
What some people see as a sport, others see as animal abuse. Greyhound racing has been going on for over a century, but the sport has sometimes come under scrutiny for its poor treatment of the dogs. However, here in WA, the welfare of the greyhounds is of the utmost importance.
We have a lot of practices that ensure that our greyhounds are looked after, fantastically, like from vets to track surfaces to kennels, everything like that. So rather than banning things outright, you're better to control things and make sure that things get done properly and deal with the people that perhaps don't do the right thing.
Greyhound racing was banned in New South Wales last year after evidence of live baiting and mass culling, although it wasn't long until the ban was reversed by former New South Wales Premier Mike Baird.
In regards to the ban in New South Wales on racing, it was probably a bit of an overreaction. In Western Australia, we've had structures in place to deal with the people that do the wrong thing. 98% of people do the right thing. It's the 2% of people not doing the right thing that need to be dealt with. For example, some of the things they were doing in New South Wales, you'd get put in jail, 10 years jail here, $50,000 fine, which is what should happen, rather than dealing with all the people that do the right thing.
An estimated 17,000 greyhounds are discarded each year in Australia, with a large proportion of these being put down.
There's sometimes a general misconception that greyhounds are vicious dogs that are trained to chase and possibly harm small animals. This isn't always the case.
They make great pets for probably a family, but I think they would make greater pets for a couple that are semi-retired like we are, or a young couple that just want an animal for, around the home or something like that.
Greyhound Adoptions are a non-profit organisation who've been fostering greyhounds for the last 10 years. Volunteers foster the dogs until they are adequately trained and ready for adoption.
Greyhound Adoptions, we work and we fundraise and do sausage sizzles, basically to pay the vet bills, to treat these dogs like a dog and get everything, fixed up for them.
The organisation runs weekly events all over Perth in the hope of increasing the number of greyhounds adopted, potentially saving them from being euthanised.
17,000 annually as such being put down. If it was Labradors, there'd be a big outcry, or poodles or something like that. But for the greyhounds, their life is such that it needs to be better. At the end of the journey, hopefully, we'll make some changes, but we keep plugging away.
In the 1950s, the shopping experience was very different. We built up relationships with traders who often sold us local produce and handmade items. And those days are back. I'm about to discover the collective experience.
The collective concept allows small independent brands to work together under the same roof, sharing the costs and supporting each other. The Angove Street Collective in North Perth is a rabbit warren of small retailers, selling homewares, furniture, clothing, gifts and flowers, as well as housing a cafe and a paper boutique.
I have the umbrella business, and then I've invited small retailers to come in and be part of the collective.
By having so many retailers under one roof, it gives customers the ability to see products in context with each other.
So they're not just looking at furniture, but they're seeing how furniture can relate to women's wear or smaller accessories, plants or flowers, There's a really nice synchronicity and there's nice links that run through all the design fields.
Some retailers share a larger portion of the space, but there's room for those with a smaller range of products, like the Little Gifter Co, whose body products and treatments are benefiting from the collective environment.
Being in the collective, my stock is moving a lot quicker, so making batches weekly, but sometimes it ends up being nightly.
Jess works from home, but enjoys the added support from like-minded members of the collective.
Being able to have a space that I share with people that are creative as well, it's really nice to share that vibe.
Portside in Freo, the Mantle is using the collective model in the hospitality industry, allowing small restaurants and food outlets to thrive under one roof. The concept allows customers the freedom to choose from a number of different food vendors, and there's plenty to choose from.
There's actually no signage in the Mantle. You know, there's one little map, so it's like a choose your own adventure. You can come in and go, where do I go today? Which is part of the romance, I think.
Stampede Gelato started scooping 2 years ago at the Mantle, and the business has grown ever since.
Technically it started in my shed, and then I just started delivering in Tupperware containers to my buddies' houses. Like melted ice cream, and it was a debacle. But yeah, this was like the first legit spot to start. It's been pertinent really to our success, this place.
Like the other collectives, it offers young companies with little finance behind them to grow and potentially thrive.
We have art exhibitions, we've got space available if you want to come and set up your own little studio. It's a place for people to come and talk, and whilst they're here they can have some amazing food, some West Australian produce.
No story like this would be complete without the reporter tasting the food and telling you how great it is. And I don't see why this story should be any different. It's so good.
WA is home to a third of Australia's coast. It is not just our beaches that are the world's envy, but our beautiful marine parks. Right on our doorstep you can find exotic and wonderful marine life, specific to WA.
All I wanted to do today was go to Marmion Marine Park and go snorkeling and see some sick different species. I used to live in Ningaloo and there's incredible snorkeling up there, but it's not as accessible as this.
We use these parks for scuba diving, surfing and recreation, but they are also vital in scientific research.
Both fish and seagrass are key assets to the marine park, so we need to find out what's the best methodology for collecting quantitative data on those assets.
The marine parks are representative areas of special marine habitat. The idea is to protect a little bit of each of the habitats, and that increases your biodiversity overall.
While we enjoy the marine parks, we don't think about the work required to protect them.
This is an example of a coral tile that we put out into the marine environment, which planula larvae, which is young coral, would land on, and they'd crawl underneath the tile usually or on the side, and then they start to grow.
Global warming, overfishing and pollution have created an alarming threat to marine life.
At a global scale, we've got changing climate, so we're seeing an increase in water temperature quite slowly, but that will have an impact on those animals and the habitats that they're living in.
From educating our youngsters to saving whales and monitoring corals, Mel Evans has her rewards and her challenges.
We've done a couple of releases where we've had the animal tied to the side of the boat, and it's quite a long trip out to sea to get deep enough to be able to let that animal go, and you're not sure if it's going to swim off or turn upside down. And so when they swim off and the last thing you see is their tail going under the water, then you know, it's sort of like, yes, like, you know, that's fantastic.
If it wasn't for marine conservationists and good people doing fine work, we wouldn't have this fabulous ecosystem and the fabulous state that it's in.
Mel works with the WA community to protect this precious marine life.
With one of the volunteer groups from the area, and they had their canoes out there, and they were helping us get these animals into a position where we could get them into a sling and try and get them out of that section of the lake and get them back into deeper water. Definitely a challenging situation for me. I think I'd been in the job for about a month, and also really rewarding. It was fantastic to work with the community because they've got such a passion for their local area. We're definitely making a difference by trying. Sometimes we're not successful, but when you are, it's those little wins that just, yes.
And with a view like this, it's easy to see why our underwater environment needs to be protected.
We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Project WA. ECU Broadcasting will be back next weekend with another edition. We leave you with some WA musicians who are also making a difference.
I'm Timothy Nelson. I'm a 27-year-old songwriter from Western Australia. I love making music, long walks on the beach and romantic comedies. I'm always thinking about 7 different things at once. I have a real tough time concentrating on life in general. Usually writing about 3 different half ideas for a song in one go and thinking about someone else's song, and it's very loud in there, and I like listening to music for the escapist sort of element of it. I think the WA music scene it's small and it's very tight, but it's also very layered. You know, there are like 3 or 4 different scenes, and you might not be necessarily involved in that group, but you're only just over the road. I'll just get in line.